Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie, and this is one of my favourite episodes that we record every single year. It is our season predictions episode. We'll be giving all of our hot takes for the 2025 season. Lockie, mate, how are you going? And 6 years into the pod, is it easier? Is it any harder to try and come up with these really spicy takes?
It felt harder a few weeks ago, I think, when we started kind of putting together our plan for the preseason. Since we launched the podcast for this year, it became a lot easier. The clarity is there. The takes are hot.
Yeah, I think I struggled as well. Now that we're a bit more stable, I feel like when you're looking at the list and we kind of know most of what is out there aren't too many unpredictables. I thought that was going to stump me initially, but I've pulled it out one more time. And if you want some crazy, spicy hot takes, hopefully we can bring them to you this year. And that's where we're going to start off with the biggest, spiciest predictions possible. Now, we like to go a little bit overboard with these. It can't just be a Paddy Cripps will win the Brownlow. That's not good enough. We know that most likely will happen. We try to make these a little bit more hot on the scale. But we also have to believe in them. That's the key to this. So I'd be very excited to know what you have to say on this. And if you're watching this, listening to it, make sure you leave a comment below or on the socials at Navy Blue Corner with all of your hot take predictions. But Lockie, hit me with your first one.
Well, I was just going to add an extra caveat, which is I feel like whenever we do this, I often write one down and I'm like, that's absolutely crazy. And then I look at it the next day and I'm like, is it actually crazy or not? So please let us know if some of these are actually lukewarm or not. Because now I look at all of mine that I've written down and I'm like, I can see a world. I can see a world where all these happen. But then also someone on the street, I say one of these two and they go, there's absolutely no way.
Yeah, well, our track record with these, because we revisit them at the end of the season, I don't know if we've ever got really any of them right, but
it's true.
That's the fun in it. Hopefully by us really absolutely going hard in the predictions, it's a good thing if some of these do come up. So Lockie, maybe start a little lukewarm.
That's my plan. I'm going to try and
we'll go from there.
Ascending heat, kind of hot ones style. So let's go with my first hot take is that Jagger will win the Rising Star.
Okay, yeah, that's very lukewarm, but
I mean,
it is kind of difficult when you do think about it in the sense of he has to obviously play and be ready from every single game, which is he in our best 22 at the moment? We think so. There's a world where he's not. And then from that, how do you perform when you're in such a good team and others can overshadow you? Yeah, I don't mind
Thank you.
I don't mind
That's why there's a bit of heat behind it. I think he's going to be one of the leaders for like disposals and things like that in this rookie class. And then obviously he's going to be, well, not obviously, but I believe that he'll be on one of the best teams as a rookie. And then, maybe throw in a few memorable moments, like a few nice goals and that kind of thing. And I think he'll take it away.
Yeah, well, I like that that's where you've started because I feel like my first one isn't very spicy, but there's a big jump, I think, from this one and every other one. So I have to lead with it. And that is that Carlton will play Collingwood in the semi-final this year. I don't think it'll be a prelim or a granny. I reckon it's going to be a semi-final. We've almost flirted with playing them here and there. It feels like at some stage there's going to be a really big, hot, contested final between Carlton and Collingwood. And I think you can pencil it in for this year.
Very interesting. It's not the Carlton layer that I'm suspicious on that one on. I feel like finally today I feel really good about my predicted ladder. And I just don't have Collingwood in the 8, I'm afraid to say.
I feel like this would be, they've gone all in with this list. And they just managed to scrape into finals. We make top 4. We lose. They get a sneaky win. They think it's all on. It's all going to happen. And then we absolutely belt them and we don't see them in finals again for another 10 years. That's where I'm seeing it in my head at this stage. But I agree with you. I think the harder part in that is Collingwood making finals. So maybe that should have been the hotter prediction.
No, that's pretty good. I like that. That's a nice positive one to start off with. My next hot take that I'm going to go with, which is the next highest in terms of heat. All right, let me go with this one, which I also maybe isn't as hot as you would like. But round 1, Richmond.
Yep.
I think that will be our biggest win over them since 2011.
And
2011
what was
was
the margin
100,
then?
103.
Ooh, I like that.
I'm not going to say that we're going to beat,
Mm.
if we're not going to win by over 100. I think that's far-fetched. But we beat them by 63 last year. We only get to play them once this year as well. So this is our one chance to put them away.
No
I think we're
bolter.
going to come out firing, and I think we're going to get close to that 2011 margin.
I almost had on here that we would beat them by 100 points. So I'm glad that you've gone with it. I think that that's starting to heat up. I'm going to hope there's a big jump from you here because I feel like my next one
here we go
is, but it's the tough thing where until you say it, until you sort of test it out there, which I haven't done, I don't know how spicy this is, but I reckon that Lockie Cowan will finish in the top 10 in our BNF this year. Is that not spicy enough?
I don't think it is. Well, maybe it is to some,
top 10's
but
big.
we're
top
both
10's
so bullish.
Difficult.
I
mean, we went through just our top 6 or 7, I believe, on the last episode. The gap between where Lockie Cowan probably sits amongst those players is quite a bit. So I think a top 10 finish for this man is somewhat spicy.
You have to be like a Matt Kennedy level player to do that. So,
gee, the drive-bys have started early this season, but I just think with Newman not there, we've been expecting and seeing a bit of this rise from Lockie Cowan. I was so bullish on him when we drafted him, and I think that this is just going to be that extra year where you see so much more of him and maybe a little bit more of that offensive side we haven't seen as much at AFL level. Puts on a few more kilos over preseason, and that will just mean top 10 in the John Nichols.
This segment every year is just us saying nuffy statements, and then the other one being like, "It's not that nuffy. That's actually real." It's like such a stupid segment. But let me go to my next hot take. What was the most goals kicked in a game last year? Do you remember?
By a single player?
By any player, yeah. It's a bloke
8?
from Sydney. Big Joel Amati. Kick 9.
9 from the man.
Gather round. We play West Coast. I reckon Charlie puts 10 through again.
So no Amati party, but a Charlie party. Is that what you're telling me?
Precisely.
Gee, see, I know we've just said that we're shitting on each other for these not being hot, but...
Are you saying that's not hot?
You're saying like we're going to pump Richmond, and now you're going to say Charlie's going to kick a lot of goals against the worst team in the competition. I feel like
more goals than any player kicked last year.
Still, he's kicked.
How many players kicked a goal last year in a game? We've got 2 of the best key forwards, right? They,
kicked 10 on him. Like he kicked 10 or 9 last time.
Both. He kicked 9 the second last time and 10 the last time.
Yeah.
What, you're telling me it's more likely than not?
Yes, I think it's more likely kicks 10 than 9. I reckon going 12 would have made it a little bit more spicy.
Interesting.
Well, okay.
Well, let us know. Let us know.
No, give me a reasoning. I feel like
No, that's the reasoning. The reasoning is we know what their backline looks like. They've lost Tom Barrass. He kicked 9 last time, 9 2 times ago, 10 last time. Didn't get to play him last year. We don't know how he's going to be coming into the season with a few like little niggles and that kind of thing. But round 5, he'll be coming into his own. Adelaide Oval, beautiful.
I feel like the spicier part of this is Charlie doesn't play until round 5. First game in, kicks 10. That would have been maybe a little bit more exciting, but maybe it's not because now he's missing a few games of football. It's the double-edged sword there.
Well, it's the hard balance of realism in this segment versus you got to have a sprinkle of realism in there. Otherwise, what are we doing? What are we doing here? Zach Williams.
Well, speaking of real, well, maybe he will. Maybe that should have been your prediction. Would have been a bit spicier. But I'm going big on my John Nichols medal again, and I'm going to give you the winner. Now, this isn't Paddy Cripps. This isn't a Jacob Wiedering. isn't a Sammy Walsh. The man who has done 10,000 hamstrings in the past 12 months, Adam Chera, is going to win the John Nichols medal. Lock it in now. Is that spicy enough?
Okay. I think that's the spiciest so far. And you can see the pathway. You can,
my rationale on this is that a couple of years ago, when he was fit and firing, he was leading our best and fairest until he got injured and sort of tailed off a little bit. Obviously, we know what happened last year. I was looking at it because it's a later prediction we have, so spoilers, you know mine already, but do I wanted to give it to Cripps again? Is it Walshy? Well, he's had some issues in pre-season. I can't see it being Weering because I think we're too good, which means it's most likely not a defender, if that makes sense. Charlie's got some injury things. I couldn't peg it down on a key forward. I just think some of our best footy has been when Adam Chera has been firing. If he's had a absolutely beautiful, no issue pre-season, I can see him having one of the best seasons, going above what he was like in 23 and just becoming our best midfielder for the year.
I think the logic is all very sound there. I guess the biggest question is, if you had to predict, how many games do you reckon he'll play this year?
I think he'll miss maybe one. I reckon he'll have a big year.
Amazing result if true. That would be great.
If he doesn't, my prediction's not coming true. So I'm kind of hamstrung, maybe not the right word for Chera, but into saying he's playing every single game. Now, Lockie, I'm not super happy with these hot takes so far. I think we're taking steps towards the furnace, but I'm hoping to be in it with this next one.
Like I said, I don't want to be putting hot takes out there that I want to be able to stand behind these. That's the balance. And as I look at this one now, I'm like, maybe this is my coldest take of all of them, and I should have said it at the start. But it feels hotter. It feels hot because it's kind of like a bit of a subject that maybe we don't want to talk about. But I reckon that this will be Brodie Kemp's last season at Carlton.
Ooh, that's spicy. See, I like
it. Is
maybe it's because it's negative that it adds a bit of the spice to it, but
exactly,
I can see that potentially happening. Obviously, being moved around a different position this year. If he doesn't nail that down, he's out of contract. There was potential that he was going to leave us to St Kilda late in the trade period last year. It's plausible, but I do still think there's a bit of spice to it. I do like that, Lockie.
I appreciate that. It's weird though, because I am optimistic about him this season, but I think we're going to get to the end of the season and have no clarity on what his role in the team is. And then that partner with what you just mentioned. Yeah, I think that'll be it, unfortunately.
Well, I have to say I'm very happy you've gone this way because my next two are very negative. So I don't know which one to start with because I feel like the fans are going to come for me. So I'll go with maybe not as crazy.
Wow.
By season's end, both George Hewitt and Sam Docherty will not be in our best 23.
Interesting. Interesting.
I think the Sam Docherty one is a little bit more obvious. There's more behind it with the ACLs, his age, position. We don't really know where he fits at the moment. Is he a winger? Does he play some mid? Does he go back to defense? Does he play some half forward? He's kind of going to be the Mr. Fix-It. And as their season progresses, do we move past that to someone that does have a more specific goal, really? And then the George Hewitt one, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later in one of the segments that we do have coming up, but it just kind of goes to our midfield at the moment and the amount of talent that we have running through there if everyone stays fit. Cripps will be there, Walsh, Chera. We've just brought in Jagger Smith. Cooper Lord is another one that is near and around it, looking for some more game time. And you sort of mentioned it last year, and that has kind of started it for me in this. We love George Hewitt. No one's trying to get rid of him. He's got a massive role to play. But I'm intrigued to know that by season's end, whether adding different dynamic elements, and maybe a guy like Cooper Lord that is inside but has a bit more to his game, whether we'll go towards that rather than George Hewitt that is just your inside mid. He obviously does it better than almost anyone else, but do you accept that trade-off of a little bit less inside for a little bit more dynamic? And that's where I see it potentially at the end of this year.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's even changed about Hewitt this year compared to last year is it's different caliber of guys that are trying to push into that midfield than when we talked about this 12 months ago. Like Lord obviously wasn't on our radar. Jagger wasn't on the radar. Elijah's now been there for a year. It's like a different kind of pressure to when it was like, well, maybe Jack Carroll is going to be the guy, or, you know. So, yeah. And he's also quite different to Doherty in that it's really hard to see what his role would be if he's not starting at centre bounces. Yeah. Whereas Doherty, at least you feel that flexibility a bit more. Yeah.
So we're starting to get a little bit spicy.
Not that hard.
Okay.
It's hard. It's hard because we both agree.
Yeah.
On so many things,
and we're both
are so on the
very
same page.
Deep into the nuffy areas with this. So yeah, I'm intrigued on the last few you've got.
It's almost I hate to say this. I mean, this might be the rudest thing I've ever said to you on the show. But could it be hotter to say the opposite? Like, would it be a hotter take to say that they're both still locked on best 23 at the end of the season? I feel like that would be surprising in a way.
In a way, yes, but it probably goes back to what you're saying do I believe it? And I don't know if I do, so I can't stand by it. But, Lockie, do you have any more spicier takes?
You know that we love our super coach, don't we? We absolutely love it. We're going to be putting together a Navy Blue Corner team again just before the season starts, which I'm excited for.
So there's really no point in anyone else signing up and creating a team because you're just wasting your time. Seriously.
Exactly right. Now's the time to just jump on board with us and I guess just back us in.
Yeah, because if you're watching it at the start, then you can kind of feel like you won as well because you're not going to win if you try.
It's the people's team.
Because we're just that good, really.
A lot of people are very hot on TDK for this season. You know, solo rucking, put up some big scores against some poorer teams last year. We know he put up a 176 against his brother. The highest individual score last year was a 197 by Luke Ryan. And I reckon TDK is going to get the highest individual score in a match in 2025. So that 176 against Geelong, it was a ripper game. We remember it was 25 touches, 34 hit outs, kicked a goal, 7 clearances, 6 tackles. But he can do better than that. He can do better than that lot.
No, that is exciting. I like that one, Lockie. That's been your best by far. Thanks, maybe it's because you've added supers, which is a love of mine. So that kind of wins me over. But I feel like that's bold. I was worried when you mentioned De Koning whether you're going to say he's at the Saints next year. And I was like, oh, no, I don't like where this is going. So I'm very happy it is more supers related. And the logic makes sense. He can kind of do everything. He can kick goals, take marks, wins the hit-outs. Maybe we get him on the kick-ins as well, just to boost those points. He plays on and then absolutely kicks out on the full. I don't care, but we'll take really those points. I'm going to go very negative for my second last hot take. And I guess maybe it's like your Brody Kemp one. It's not that hot, but don't worry. My last one is kind of insane. So it kind of makes up for all of these. But Jack Silvani will not be a Carlton player in 2026.
And you know what? I was leaning there with my Brody Kemp one, but I didn't want the people to come for me. And now they're going to come for you. How fucking dare you, Ian? Jack Silvani.
It's not what I want to happen. It's just what I think will happen. And we all love Jack. We all think from a Carlton perspective, fans, that he's kind of an integral cog, whether he's playing every week or not. Him as a role player for us, particularly in the front half that we've seen, we like what he brings and we want to see that. However, it's kind of clear with the coaching group and the selection panel that when he's fit, he's not nailed on starting. And now you look at this season, when one of the big issues last year was who's that second ruck? Do we need another mobile player in the forward line? And they've gone, no, that's going to be Brody Kemp. You can go in the back line. So I think it's similar to Brody Kemp with if they don't like him as a forward and he wasn't getting selected, if he doesn't make it as a key defender, which I think is almost harder with some of the cattle we have there compared to as a forward, he'd kind of be the only one of that ilk without Kemp being there. So if he doesn't make it as a key defender, out of contract, the Saints will probably be sniffing around again.
Those bloody Saints.
I don't know if he would want to leave, but we had this discussion the last time he came out of contract, signed a 2-year deal. It's basically the same thing now where is he playing footy? He's that little bit older. He loves the club, but will he be sitting there assessing it going, as much as I want to be a Carlton player, I do just want to play games. So I need to maximize my own playing career. And unfortunately, that means I think he might not be here.
No, like I said, I was considering this one too. But then where I ran into a wall was it would. So do you think they'll both leave? Because that feels weird. That doesn't feel like that doesn't feel right.
Who would you say is more likely to stay?
Well, I think Silvani's more likely to stay.
Okay, actually, I'll rephrase this. If you're the club and you get to really make all of the decision, right? It's not like a Jack is happy to stay, so he'll take less or anything like that. If you had to pick one as the club, which one do you think they'll decide on?
Yeah, I think if I was Carlton and if I was a different club, I would choose Kemp.
Yeah. I feel like there's more upside in keeping a Kemp around.
Yeah, me too.
There's more untapped potential.
Age profile. Yeah. So that's why, and that's kind of why I went with him, in that I think the demand will be higher from other clubs.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I hope Silvani's still playing with us, and I hope he finds a way to make this defensive side of his game really work. But I keep saying it. I just thought there was such a clear gap for him in this forward line, and just seems strange that he's not there. Your final hot take prediction for 2025.
I'm scared to say it. Can you've got any wood nearby?
Yes. This whole desk.
There will be a week this season where you and I are on the podcast previewing a game, and Nick Newman is the only player on the injury list.
Oh, that's the hottest prediction that you could ever have. Thinking that Carlton aren't going to have any injuries is
one injury.
Insane. Yeah, well, one that already exists. We wouldn't everyone that is potentially available to play. That's crazy. I think that's more improbable than my own prediction that I've got coming up. But take me through why you believe that we'll be so fit and firing. Are you just you're a Rob in a stand? We all know it.
I am. I always have been, even before I knew who he was. I think we know that so many of our injury-prone guys have been cleared out over the last couple of years. So you take them out of the equation. We were talking on last week's episode about how people are, for some reason, seeing this as an injury crisis when it is absolutely so far from it. And hopefully, if everything goes well early in the season, those couple of guys that have got niggers will be back and firing. Mate, you think Chera's going to miss one game this season? Zach Williams is healthier than ever. Again, who can get injured? We're fine. Yep. I'm not necessarily saying it'll be very early in the season, but maybe, I'm feeling it. I really can see us being like, wow, look at this. We'll have a little shrine of Rob, and we'll be, make a little poem for Andrew Russell.
Oh, we need to do something if that comes to fruition. That is spicy. I like that, Lockie. That's big.
Thank you.
Now, I'm excited for you to rip to shreds how unrealistic my next one is. But
do you believe it?
I believe it, and I have come with evidence again, Lockie. Some may know I went big last year with a big prediction that Jack
no, it's not
Martin,
going to be
Jesse
like
Motlop,
goal scorers.
and Orazio Fantasia were going to combine to kick 84 goals last year. Now, I will admit, I was probably backing a little bit too much there. I was thinking so many of these guys were going to be fit and available. It wasn't realistic. So I've gone back and I've reran numbers. I've had a hard look at myself in the mirror,
Check
Lockie.
the algorithm.
Now, you think 84 was a hot take?
No.
I believe that Jesse Motlop, Zach Williams, Ashton Moyer, and Elijah Hollins will combine to kick 100 goals minimum this season. Let that settle.
Tell me the players again.
It is Jesse Motlop, Zach Williams, Ashton Moyer, and Elijah Hollins combined for 100.
Okay. So because you've done your evidence, do you have quickly for me what their total was this year if you take those four? So we know what the benchmark is.
I do not have their specifics. I think the only one I don't have them all added up. They're all within this
Looks like
paragraph
40.
I have in front of me. I
My
don't know
quick
how many
maths says 40.
Motlop kicked. Yeah, you can sort of
6.
do the maths. Yeah, while that all happens. And I Moy kicked 2 off the top of my head. Elijah kicked 17. Williams kicked 15. So yes, that's the benchmark.
Okay.
Rip it apart. And what do you think? And then I'll give you my insane evidence afterwards.
I think the audacity of you to say when my takes aren't hot, and then you have this, because I think that this is feasible.
You said this about, I need to say this, you said this about my small forwards last year, and that was so clearly not going to happen. You're backing me in this year. Do you regret that? Are you already taking it back?
I think, okay, let's just look at the path forward. And now I'm going to be giving your evidence, obviously.
I like this.
No Owies.
Not there.
Owies is gone. He was obviously a key contributor in the goal department.
That's what, 33 goals, I believe, gone?
33 goals. Gone. He didn't kick a lot of goals, but Fantasia played 15 games. We are expecting that he probably won't play that many games. The writing's on the wall. I know you think that this is a joke, but an average of 25 with all of them. I don't think they're all going to kick 25, obviously, but I think we're hoping that Jesse can get above 30.
I really dislike that you're agreeing with me. I wanted you to fight back. And the fact that you're agreeing with me makes me not only just feel like it's not hot, but makes me feel like it's just not happening now. If you were against this, I would 100% go to Sportsbet and put the house on it, because I'd be going, okay. Whereas now I'm trying to get my money back. Also, I'm trying to say I've been hacked. I need it back. Yes?
And Kennedy kicked 16.
Yes.
So, I'm sure you had that in your evidence as well.
I like that you're bringing it for me. This is incredible.
Players need to step up. Well, I guess the hope with this is that our friends that are listening to this think that it's absolutely crazy, and then it can come to fruition for once.
And we will revisit this, and we'll see how crazy it is. But I'll give you my evidence. And what I wanted to do was not just think, okay, Fantasia kicked X amount of goals, he'll do it again, but maybe he'll improve. No. I want to see what has happened at a different club. Let's look at Brisbane, because I think their forward line structure is quite similar to what we're trying to do this year. This is long. Stay with me. Interject when you need to. Danaher was there, Charlie Curnow. He kicked 58 goals last year. Charlie kicked 57. Hipwood is there, Harry. He kicked 33. Harry kicked 49. Morris is pretty much going to be what Kemp is, that sort of third tall. He kicked 24 goals. Now, Kemp kicked 5 from 3 games as a forward. When I'm looking at those 3 key forwards comparing, I think, well, Harry's going to kick more than Hipwood. I reckon Morris and Kemp can be quite similar here, meaning Brisbane kicked 115 goals between their 3. We, keeping everyone the same, giving Kemp 24. That's 130 goals for us with our 3 talls, meaning we are plus 15 above what Brisbane have gotten at this moment.
I like it. I like it.
So let's look at what's left over for the Smalls, keeping in mind we're 15 to the good at the moment. Charlie Cameron kicked 44 goals for Brisbane. We have no one that is going to do that. We don't have a Charlie Cameron. So let's just forget about it. Now we're negative 29 goals all round. And let's go to the next guy. Kai Lohman kicked 36 last year.
Wow.
Jesse Motlop kicked 24 goals in 2023. I believe he can take that next step up and kick the 36 that Kai Lohman did. I don't think that that's unreasonable to say you can kick just a little bit more from what your best is a few years into the system. Now, Cam Rayner, he kicked 31 goals. He's not a full staying in the forward line. He kind of goes around there. But when looking at those goals, I believe that Zach Williams can get close to this 30 mark. He kicked 15 from 11 games, having never played as a forward. If you take that and average it out from the 19 games he played last year, he would kick 26 goals. I think he can be better. I think he can get to that 31. Bang, even. Callum Archie, another one of these plays everywhere, kicked 27 goals last year. Moya kicked 2 from 2 games. They weren't even full games, Lockie. He played about 2 quarters of footy. Now, I'm not going to go crazy and extrapolate that out to him kicking a goal a quarter across every single game and him dominating. But I think we're all big on Ashton. And
yes,
Motlop kicked 12 goals from 12 in his first year. I back Moya to play 12 to 15 games. Let's be modest and say he kicked 17 goals. Add all up where I am currently, and we are negative 39 goals versus what Brisbane have accumulated right now. We move on to the last piece. Zach Bailey. Again, another one of these kind of mid-forwards. Kicked 22 goals last year. Elijah kicked 17. There is no reason he can't go bigger and better and get that realistic 22 that we know a similar team has kicked. So I think to round this out here, while saying Motlop, Williams, Moya, and Elijah to kick these 100 goals sounds like a lot. It's 39 less goals than the total of Brisbane in a similar forward line. So I think it's reasonable to calculate from this 106 goals from these boys. And you can be even more conservative with this and say, okay, Zach, we're going too big on you. Let's bring it back to that average out of 26 instead of 31. That's still 101 goals. Like you mentioned, Kennedy kicked 16 that we're trying to cover. Always kicked 33.
Yeah.
Why can't it come from this crop? And I also think the most ballsy prediction out of everything I've said is that Kempy's going to kick 24 goals. So you can take a few away from him. And guess what? The Smalls have more to play with. I just think this is so nailed on for as crazy it is to say these blokes are going to kick 100 between them. And with how wrong I was last time with this, I said 84 wasn't enough. Let's go for the ton. What do you think?
Your logic has had the same effect as me being positive, which is that now I don't want to believe it because there's too much logic and reason. I respect the grind that you went through the comparison to Brisbane's great, really strong.
Don't be expecting that level of research and effort put into anything else I'm going to cover this year. I think I'm maxed out. I'm tired. I'm ready for bed. I reckon you can carry the pod for the rest of the year.
Yeah. I mean, I love it because one of the things that tells me is that if that scenario comes true, we're going to have a pretty consistent forward line grouping throughout the year, which is what I want. So I'm a believer.
There's goals to go around. Someone's got to kick them. I hope it is this crop here, but let us know. They're the only ones that are allowed to kick goals. Hey, Charlie might not play the first few rounds. That means more goals for everyone else. But let us know your hot take predictions in the comments below on YouTube, or if you're listening in audio form, head over to the socials at Navy Blue Corner. And if our predictions weren't hot enough, absolutely scold us, pour some hot water on us, because we need to fire up. We need to get bigger and better this year. But let's continue with a bit of positivity here with one of my favorite segments in predicting the ones to watch this year. Now, this is normally, you can kind of take it a few different ways, but it is a player that you think is going to have a really good year to start with. Is this someone you've never seen before that no one's talking about, you think he's going to become a really solid player? Or is it someone that's maybe a B grade player that will become an A grader? Lockie, take me through your first one to watch and explain to me why you're hyped on them this year.
Well, okay. Firstly, you didn't give me all that descriptive criteria when I was doing this. So
that's what we do every single year, mate. That's what we do every year.
But see, we're going to do most improved as well.
Okay.
So it's like, are we like? It's kind of both. So I put in different words,
however you want,
which I hope you'll like. Intriguing.
Okay.
And I'm thinking about this in terms of when we open the narrative of 2025 at the end of this season. If we could fast forward to that right now, who would I most want to know about? Like what, in terms of like ones to watch, it's like, who am I most desperate to know? How did their 2025 go? Does that resonate?
It worries me a little bit knowing that the next thing is under the pump, and it feels like you're towing towards the negativity, needing to improve. Okay, I'll allow it. I'll listen and then I'll judge.
Well, it's there's a little overlap with who we've discussed. I've got Kemp and Silvani as my top two ones to watch because we've talked about preseason, who are we most excited to see what their roles look like, and the way that their 2025 is going to pan out. I just could not tell you. Both of them, I could see the scenario where they have really successful campaigns for a lot of different reasons, and we've both made cases for why they won't be on the list. So that's why they're my biggest ones to watch.
Yeah, I understand your logic, but I've got both of those in my under the pump. You've just stolen two out of that pack. So maybe we are
synergistic
not aligned
segments
for once. But let's talk about it regardless. Let's go Jack Silvani.
Yes.
Let's have that deep discussion. What does his season look like?
That your guess is as good as mine. We debated last week whether he is in the best 23 as a defender or not. Is he above Haynes in the hierarchy? What kind of role is he even going to play down there?
That's what I don't understand. Like, if we're saying he's in the team, I don't know what that looks like. I don't get him as a key defender, and I'm so happy to be proven wrong. If he becomes our best, egg on my face, I'll love it. I'll absolutely come on here and sprout his praises every single week. But we've got Wiedering as the lockdown. Yep. Gov is an interceptor, a rebounding player. Well, Haynes is kind of the exact same thing. Kemp was mainly a lockdown when he went down there last year, but he was a little bit undersized. Silvani's got the height on him, but not necessarily the body size. So are we looking at Silvani as a lockdown? Is he an interceptor? Does he do that better than anything we've already got? I just don't see where he's best, if everyone's healthy, how he finds a way into that back line. Because I think we've got so many of his position. I'd probably rather see Lewis Young in there as a lockdown to free up someone else than have Silvani as a loose anyway. It's weird. I don't quite understand it. And does he get moved to the forward line at any stage if it's not working out? Is that something you see happening?
That's a really good question. Probably not. I think that would... I can't imagine that happening. I think part of the gap that I have right now is like open training intel. Like what is he actually, like who is he playing on in match simulation and that kind of thing. I would be extremely surprised if in round 10 he's playing forward and Kemp's playing back. That would seem strange to me. Yeah.
Do you think he can play smaller? Like, where do you have something you believe is his role right now, or is this just a wait and see? And I like that it does work in the ones to watch, because tell you what, he's someone I want to watch in these preseason games to know what he's doing. Is is he a really high interceptor and we're using him to launch? Are we using him as a tall? Is he a small? I don't know. And out of contract, like we mentioned, it's a big year. It is a massive year for Jack.
It is. It makes me wonder. Yeah, like I'm trying to think of the archetype of player that he would play on. And it makes me wonder, is there a scenario where it helps to free Wiedering up more? Like, I'm just trying to imagine what Silvani looks like back there and whether that's a possibility. Like, he's a more lockdown guy than Kemp was.
Weirdly, I can't see him playing on a big bodied player. I think he'd just get ragdolled because he's not big. He's tall. And I know it's kind of weird because he's held his own in the ruck. So maybe he just does have that. We know how hard he works. He's just got that tenacity. And so far, whatever role you've given him, he's been really good at it. So maybe this is another perfect thing where he's going to go down there and excel because that's just what he does. Give him a role and he'll give you 100%. And that's better than what most people can do. But I weirdly see his best football being on a more medium-sized marking forward, maybe like a Bailey Fritsch style player. But how many of those run around each week for it to make sense? I don't know. But I think until I see it, I don't know how much I can judge. Right now, I'm being really negative on it. And I'm very interested to know what the people think. I feel like a lot of people will probably be really positive on it right now. But I'm so pessimistic on Jack Silvani right now, and I don't like being like that.
One to watch.
And then Brodie Kemp, 6th year at the club, out of contract at year's end. We thought he was progressing quite well as a defender. All of a sudden, he's been shifted forward after probably playing almost out of position in the back line anyway. We thought he was more of a third tall. He was playing on some of the best key forwards in the competition, undersized. Club have said, no, you're a forward now. If he doesn't make it as a forward, feels like they've said he can't make it as a defender either. It's hard to break in with Harry and Charlie. He's not only got to find that role, but then gel with them as well. I think it's almost to a degree, although I said it was the opposite before, but maybe it is harder for a Brodie Kemp because that third role might not exist where we know there's 3 key defenders. There might not be 3 tall forwards existing in this system. We might go smaller with those 2. Another one that, I guess I am very excited to see what happens with him up forward because that West Coast game was spectacular. Can he do that against an actual AFL side?
Yeah, and that system that we were running then is just not what it's going to be like this year. But I'm more bullish on it than I am the Silvani scenario because, I mean, we spoke last week again about maximizing inside 50s and having better targets, I guess, inside 50 to be able to maximize our offense. And I can close my eyes and see that scenario where, we know that Harry and Charlie, it's great when they can get up the ground and be a marking option on the wing and that kind of thing. And don't you then just feel better knowing that it's going to be Kemp one out in the square as opposed to insert other medium to small player here? So it's really hard for me to kind of imagine what a really good season for him will look like down there. It may not be by being a high goal kicker, but if he's able to play a bit more of a negating role potentially on intercept defenders, maybe and then just be a big target that creates a bit more space, it's kind of intriguing.
No, it definitely is. I'll go quick with 2 of mine because I've kind of covered them and they're not that spicy. But I said this at one of our episodes to end last season. Elijah Hollins, I'm clearly bullish on him with the goals, but I just think he's not getting spoken about enough as one of these guys that can take that next step. I said this about Chera. I think I said it about De Koning last year in someone that we know is good, but all of a sudden they're going to become really important for us. Last season was the first time he played more than 10 games in a season. Does he get more midfield time as well? I just see him, even in that high half forward role, finding his goals, that he's going to become one of our most important players when we look back on this season and say, we need him every single week because he can just do so much for us in a positive sense. And the other one that everyone is talking about that I've already spoken on is just Jesse Motlop. 24 goals in 23. Everyone, when we got rid of Owies, was saying Motlop's no good. Don't know where that narrative came from. If the man's fit, he's going to kick more than 24 goals now that he is that little bit older. He's going to blossom, and I can't wait to see it happen.
Yep, I agree with both. They're really key pieces of the future when you think about what, our best team is in 4 or 5 years, but they can also have a massive impact this year.
Yes. So where have you gone with your next few in the ones to watch?
Yeah, I mean, again, these are kind of synergistic a bit with the most improved, where I've had the guys that you put down. I think I'll bundle all three of these together, the young guys, Lord, Moya, and Binns.
Yeah.
All three are players where would you be shocked if they played only a handful of games this year and a bunch of them with a sub? Or would you be shocked if by the end of the year you're like, yeah, they're just a best 23 guy now?
It could really go either way. And that kind of makes it exciting and why they're in the ones to watch category. You can see the clear upside, but it's almost a positive if you don't see it.
Right.
Because I don't think it's going to happen in a sense of we're not seeing them because they're crap. We're not seeing them because everyone else is playing so well. They just can't get a game. And we can allow them to develop in the VFL, which we never do. Good clubs allow these guys 2 or 3 years, and all of a sudden it's like, never heard of this guy. Well, he's like 22, and all of a sudden this guy's the best in the comp. Now we can finally do it with these few, and the competition for spots will hopefully drive their performances even more, which I'm excited about.
Would you like a question without warning?
Go for it.
How would you rank those three in terms of likelihood that they're best 23 at the end of the season? Lord, Moya, and Binns.
I think it's Moya, Lord, and Binns.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think that Binns almost has a clearer path to that spot. It's probably him. Like Lord has the hardest there breaking into the midfield. Binns on the wing with Ollie Hollands moving down to the defense. No Nick Newman, who might have been on the wing. We've got Doherty. Akers might miss a little bit of time at the start of the season.
The path is there.
It's there. Whereas for others, it could be a little bit more difficult. But I think talent-wise and maybe what they've shown, I'd be a little bit more bullish on the other two.
Yep. I'm in agreement.
Sweet. I've got a couple more, so I'll try to go through them quickly. I'm going Matty Cottrell. He feels like a bit of a forgotten man, always goes under the radar. Now, I want your opinion on this straight away, Lockie, because I believe in the back end of 2023, he was a key part of us playing great footy. Do you agree with that statement?
Yes.
When he was playing his best, we were playing best. Whether that equals 100%. Causation, who knows? But I thought he was an integral role player for us. Kicked 11 goals that year, and last season he kicked 9 from 3 less games. So he's still getting decent output, even though I didn't think he had a great year last year.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued to know where his role is in 2025. That's what I'm watching. Is he a winger? Is he a half forward? Are we changing him up? But he always bobs up with big match-winning goals. You think Sydney, think Freo. First goal, that blistering one in the prelim against Brisbane. I think when we're firing, he's that kind of player that lights up. And we know he's passionate and he gets the crowd going. There is a role here in that forward line, high half forward, rotating around that I'm really interested to know if he breaks in or whether this is just a season where we go, okay, Cottrell he is one of those guys that's just going to be on the fringe and that's all he might be for us and that's fine. But I reckon there's room for him to be an integral 23er.
Yeah, I like it. I think he fits really well in this category. Yeah, like right now, I guess I do have him in my best 23, but it's
probably the last name you're picking.
It was absolutely the last name that I picked. And it's really hard to, you nailed it where like, it's hard to kind of quantify what he brings and like what it was about that 2023 run that made him so integral. Because when you think about the forward line mix, like we said last week, like Fogarty feels like almost the first picked player after the Keys. And so then once you've got those three, it's pretty quick to fill up with smalls. So you can kind of see the path where there just isn't a need for that kind of player. Yeah.
It's exciting. Do you have any other players to watch? Because I still have a couple if you need me to jump in.
Go on.
I've got one who's been spoken about a little bit, and I almost was going to run back a bit of my hot take prediction from last year, but I didn't want to do it because I've already said it. And what I said last year was that by the end of the season, we were going to be calling for the ruck combination to not be Pito and TDK. It was TDK and either Lemmy or this man, Hudson O'Keefe. Now, that didn't truly happen as I imagined, but by the end of the season, we were saying, well, who's that second ruck? Because it's not Pito. I can see a big world where by the end of this year, it is Hudson O'Keefe. The boys have been saying he's put on some size. He's been quite impressive. I don't think it'll happen in the first half of the year, but by the end, does he have more strings to his bow? Can he be someone that plays a little bit in the forward line as well, allows himself to do similar to what TDK can do? I don't know if he'll play every single week, but I think by the end, he will be more likely our second choice ruckman over Pito. Maybe that should have been the hot take prediction.
I was just going to say that.
This is where I'm excited to see whether he does play a game or if he's just still far off.
Yeah, that feels spicier than anything that you gave.
We'll cut it and we'll put it back in.
Splice it in. Don't know where to go with that because I couldn't tell you any. I couldn't tell you what his game would look like even in the twos this year.
Yeah. So we've got to watch.
I mean, yeah. God, Pito is just such a polarizing player in terms of how people view his value. Like, he's had some awesome games for us.
There was times last season where he was exceptional. And we were going, I think it is the two rucks, or it's at least definitely Pito the way he's playing. You can't drop him. There's a role for him. Absolutely.
You're right, though, that it's a really positive sign that a year ago we were like, I don't know who, like, Lemmy and O'Keefe obviously so raw. Where's that next step going to be? And at least it's nice that we're hearing those positive narratives in this offseason about him. Yeah,
we don't know how big the step is, but it feels like there has been a step forward right now.
Yeah.
And my last one to watch, I feel like I have him every single year, but I'm going to go for it again. Because he doesn't get spoken about, I think, in glowing terms. And maybe it was because I listened to him speak and I'm taking something that he said that's making me excited about him. But it's Jordan Boyd. And last season was the first time he played more than 10 games in a season. He played 19 games for us. He was not someone that came through the ranks playing every single state league team and blistering. He had to do it the hard way, and trying to get that confidence and belief in yourself can be really tricky. You might not feel like you truly belong. And listening to the interview on the summer sessions, it feels like he's quite confident now that, no, I am an AFL player. I am as good as these guys. I deserve to be here. Finally having a season where it might not have been that step up we thought he was going to have last year. I was really bullish. Don't think he nailed it down. But sometimes you just need to be living through those moments to learn. And I think that's what hopefully we can get from Jordan Boyd. Newman down as well. The pathway's there. Sard is, aging a little bit, soft tissue. I am bullish again to run it back. I'll keep the prediction if you want it, that Jordan Boyd's going to become that our biggest flair rebounding defender by season's end. I'm really excited to see whether he's the one that can fill that gap in our back line.
And I would really love it to be him. Like, I think that would be a great outcome for this season and a really positive story. I'm a believer in that. 19 games. Yeah, that feels a little surprising that it was even that high.
And
I
one of
don't-
those
I don't have a-
games, he played just about every single minute and did not record a stat, which is upsetting. But it was the game he like tore his
Yeah.
groin and then got played in the forward line, and he could not move just so he could have a
God.
rotation against Hawthorn. Very funny, I think, now looking back that he didn't get a touch and he played that much time. But when the man not war, good luck trying to get a disposal. Let's go though to the under the pump, and this isn't meant to be a really negative segment. It never has been. It's more of these guys are under the pump, so let's hope that this is the kick that they need to have a really good season. But as things stand, they need a little bit of positivity. So who for you is under the pump? So by the end of the year, we can look back and say he's no longer there. He has absolutely proved us wrong.
Yeah. Again, similar to the last one, I like to put just a little I like to make it a little more descriptive for myself so I can, I don't know. The way
I would love these descriptions so I can myself can have some really good answers instead, Lockie.
Next year I can put them in the run sheet. But I was like, what does under the pump mean to me? And I'm thinking about, we always have, I hate to say it, but we always have a whipping boy or two. There's always those players that when things aren't going right, the fans are looking at these players. And we've gotten, a lot of them have left the list over the last few years. But there's always going to be some. So these are, I guess, the three guys that to me, I think are in danger of being in that category if things don't go well. The first one is Fantasia.
Yes, because I think he's almost there already, to be honest.
He is. And the reason you may say that he wouldn't be this category is if you may think that he just won't play very much this year, which is what we thought a year ago. And he played a lot. So if he plays a lot and doesn't, it's weird because I'm pretty confident that we're going to get a better output per game than we did from him last year. But yeah, he needs to prove that he's valuable to the list this year, or else he won't be there next year.
Yeah, I don't mind it. What are your others? Because I kind of just agree. I don't have much to add.
Well, these ones are maybe, I don't think you'll agree with these, or you won't like my reasoning for them. But I think that Chera is in danger of that, because if he doesn't do what you said that he will, I feel like the narrative is kind of building and the frustration's kind of building within the fans of, is he ever going to get back to what he was in 23?
Yeah, it started to be there last season, definitely, when he was getting picked in certain games. We're playing him off the half back, which wasn't doing him any justice, and then he has another injury. Yeah, if he doesn't perform, or if he starts to have a few more of those injuries, he gets the Jack Martin tag of always injured, and you just never want that. He can definitely go either way. I'm going to be bullish in my predictions,
and I am too.
To be realistic, he's got to prove it. Otherwise, this is what could happen. And who's your last one? Yeah.
And this one's kind of the other side of the coin, but it is Cottrell.
Yeah.
Because I think he's a player where if a game doesn't go right and you look at the counting stats of a game, he may be a guy that you look at and go, what is he giving us? So I'm kind of questioning, is he going to have a defined spot in this team in 2025 or not? And if it's not super clear to the fans, then I think there could be a bit of noise.
You never want to be that guy that plays 2 games, gets dropped, comes back in, gets dropped, just isn't consistent, because then you just start to think, okay, if he's the first one out every time, he's not any good. That narrative starts to spin. I think all those are very valid. Most of mine have kind of been covered already. Sam Doherty, what's his role, age, Jack Silvani, Brody Kemp. The other one I sort of mentioned, I'll go a little bit more in depth if you need, is George Hewitt for under the pump. I'll roll that one back from you, just in that sense of if everyone else takes that step around him, are we going to want that inside ball? Or do we think there's more value elsewhere? He is one of the older players on our list. You saw a little bit last year when we all thought he was playing really well. He was the sub, I think, or at least he got dropped. And we were thinking, what's going on? And then he finally came back in and we went, never drop this man again. But if that's in the back of the coach's minds that he's maybe not 100% nailed on, well, Jagger Smith coming in doesn't make things easier. Maybe they really like Sam Doherty being able to play on the wing, play inside. Same for Elijah. I think weirdly he is under the pump to just say and just have another year like last year where you go, well, someone else has to prove it because I keep doing it. You can keep talking about Jagger Smith stepping up, Cooper Lord stepping up. Haven't done it yet. I keep doing it. You're not dropping me. So it'll be intriguing for him. But maybe someone that we haven't spoken about is, I think Corey Durden, someone who's really under the pump. Now he's contracted for another year. So he won't get delisted most likely at the end of last year. Sorry, at end of this year. But we're 5 years in now. He's yet to kick more than 15 goals in a season. The last 2 years, he's played 11 games and 14 games. That's not enough. And a return of 18 goals from just that 25 games isn't great either when we know we need one of these small forwards to burst through and make it their own. We know he's had his injury issues and lack of continuity has led to this lack of form. But it's a big year for everyone to step up. Motlop, Williams, Fogarty, you can throw Moyer into this kind of crop of goal kickers. Spots are going to be hard to get. If he's already behind them and they all take their chance, how many more opportunities is he going to have? This, for me, is the year of if he doesn't take that step, those forward line spots are going to be locked in going into 2026 in his contract year. He's not going to have a chance to prove it.
Yeah, no, there's nothing that I can really challenge you on there. We already talked about how difficult it might be to work your way into this forward line. He probably seems lower in the pecking order than anyone that we've discussed so far, it feels.
Yeah. And then just the real last one is just Harry Lemmy in the sense of it's another year. No one's expecting him to play AFL necessarily, but I think he needs to have a big VFL year where we go, there is something to persist with this guy for another few years and let him develop, or he's going to be one of those key forwards that you take with a late pick, see if they do anything, delist, bring in the next one. And so I think it's a big year for Harry just to show us a bit more of a glimpse. But let's go back to the positivity. Most improved. At the end of the season, we're kind of going to go through some of our awards now. Who will take out the most improved and why?
Oh, it's hard. It's hard because these guys are all coming off kind of different levels. I'm going to actually change who I had number one. I'm going to say Elijah.
Yep.
I think we've kind of touched on where we see the path for him going to be a higher goal kicker, to be someone that has more midfield impact. We've just been dying for that high half forward, like that player that can play that role really well. And like you said, he's still so young, still played so few games. It just feels to me like this is the year where the opportunity will be there and he'll take it.
Yeah, no, it's a good answer. I really struggled with this. I have to say, I've probably gone a really basic, boring answer, but I've gone Jesse Motlop, probably because the narrative around him is still kind of low with a lot of people. So if he does impress, it's easy to say he's improved. There was so many players I think will have a really good season, but the opinion's already quite high at a base. So I'm going to go with Jesse Motlop because I've backed him in to kick so many goals. Speaking of, we like to go sort of leading goal kicker, but it's been almost too easy with Charlie Curnow every single year. So we've scrapped that, even though this might be the year for Harry. With the non-key forward leading goal kicker, who is it, Lockie?
Yeah, it's Jesse. It's going to be Jesse.
I've gone the same. Wouldn't surprise me if it is Zach Williams. I
got him second.
Would love to see that. Now, the Navy Blue Corner, Blue Bagger, Badge of Honor winner. That is our best and fairest. For anyone who is unaware and thinking, what on earth is that disgusting name we have for the award? It's the best name. Thank you very much. But who takes out our voting for the year as the best player?
We've been recording for an hour and we have just hardly touched on this man at all. It's going to be Rick.
We spoke for about 2 hours last week, and I don't think we mentioned him coming off the record-breaking Brownlow medal season, and we're just like, boring.
Put some respect on this man.
He's a superstar.
He'll win it.
Yeah, I realistically had him here, but I thought that'd be boring. So I was starting to think who outside could win it, and that's where I came to this Chera logic, and then maybe I was just trying to convince myself, but I was so dead headstrong into this for the John Nichols medal. I was like, well, he's going to get ours then, clearly, because I'm going to be voting for him with threes every single week, regardless of the performance, just so I can be correct. So he will be the winner. Now, you know my John Nichols medalist, so is yours as simple as Big Richter?
It really is. And I've had, I don't know how much you and I have really talked about this, even if we did at all, the Brownlow last year. And I've had so many debates over the last 4 or 5 months with people.
Yeah, me too.
This whole narrative about Cripper and the voting and all that. But I'm just such a believer that if you actually watched Carlton last year, you would know that he's just our best player. And like, it is so hard to justify in a game where someone was clearly better with him. It was just so rare last year that was the case. And it's hard for me to envision how that's going to change this year.
Right. People just aren't, they're either not intelligent or they refuse to be intelligent due to their clear bias.
The bias.
Because we've all got this bias, but I've had the same thing that I believe you would have on Patrick Cripps in saying, did he deserve that many votes? Should he have got them? That's a lot of votes. I don't think anyone should probably get that many, but look at the season. No, like you're saying, who else from Carlton was really standout good last year? Charlie with goals? Well, he's not going to get votes, so it's Cripps. Look at everyone else who he was comparing around at that stage, particularly, a Bontempelli. I thought Treloar had an almost better year than Bontempelli. He was going to take so many votes off him. Same for Brisbane with Lachie Neale. Collingwood as well. I think there were more players that were around good. And Dacos still had he broke the record anyway in coming second. But you look at what the umpires see right now. The game of AFL is just, it is a contest for 90% of the game, and it is who gets their hands on the football first. Umpires are looking at the ball. So the biggest thing they see is when the ball's contested and they're trying to make a call. If you break out through that, they remember you. They remember those big clearances, first hands on the footy. That's all that sticks out for them. Patrick Cripps does that more often and more spectacular than most people. So at the end of the day, umpires sit in a room, they've been sprinting, they're gassed, and they're thinking, who did I see play well? Well, gee, every time the ball was there to be won, Cripper was bursting through the packs. No one else was doing it for Carlton. He gets a ridiculous amount of votes. It's kind of silly to get that many, but the logic is there if you want to actually look at it.
But that's the nature of
it. Bond, Neale, any of them were deserving of the Brownlow. At some stage, one of them has to win it.
Yeah,
it was his best year at Carlton by far.
Yes, and it's the gap in these players to me. Like you weren't making a strong point about this, but you mentioned Collingwood. I am so firmly believing that Dacos is going to win the Brownlow this year. And with all the Collingwood that I watched last year, I thought it was Cripps like. I can hardly think of a Collingwood game that I watched where I'm like, oh yeah, there was someone better than Dacos for Collingwood. No, like he's just a cut above to me on that team. And a lot of teams do not have those players. Like the Treloar example that you said, everyone was complaining about how few votes Bont got. Well, there's just better parity in that team, which is just what we don't have.
Yeah, and we didn't have it last year. And, Collingwood didn't win enough games probably to get that little bit more. It's going to be really intriguing Brownlow-wise to see what the votes tallies are like this year. You'll wonder if it's spoken about internally that, hey, we need to calm the votes down on these players because it's getting too much. Or is it just simply...
What's the problem? I don't get the problem.
I don't understand why people get so annoyed every year when the one person they didn't want to win they wanted someone to win the Brownlow, they didn't win it, therefore the Brownlow's really bad. I
I
if
don't
you
get that.
don't, I think the Prendercast boys say this often, but it's like, if you don't like the Brownlow because you hate how the umpires vote and you don't think that they're the most intelligent to make the call. You know how many other votes and different awards there are? There's the coaches doing it. There's the players. There's Herald Sun do
The Navy
one.
Blue
The
Corner
Age do one.
badge of honor.
Everyone can do their own tally, and you can just take that with the weight of this one means more. At the end of the day, for whatever reason, the Brownlow is the one that's the most prestigious. I love the kookiness of it in the sense of you really don't know who is going to win. Whereas for the most part, you kind of know who the coaches will say, who the players will say. The Brownlow is just, how many times do you watch a game of football and you go, well, this guy had 40 touches, he's getting it, he gets no votes. That's the fun in the essence of it. You've got other awards if you're desperate. Seriously.
Mate, I could not agree more. No one is yet to present to that I've seen a really coherent argument of why there's a better system than this, or why it needs to be changed. Because you're exactly right. Like, just don't worry about it then. Just like I don't really care about who the players vote for. I just don't care.
My favorite thing that people always bring up is, well, we need a panel of like ex-players to pick it. That will be way better because that works so well for the All-Australian squad. And everyone is always in agreement of that. There's always going to be issues with no matter who is voting for it. So if you want to believe something, believe the players because you have more faith that they know what they're talking about if you really want.
Yeah. My favorite one is when people say the coaches should be the coaches' vote.
Yeah, we saw how well that worked out.
They're going to be unbiased because oh my God.
We saw McRae give 5 votes to Dacos to allow him to win the award. Like, everything can be tainted. So, whichever award you like,
chat about that, but there we go.
No, so let's talk about us. Ladder position. Where do you think we'll finish? We spoke in our last episode, the expectations, where we want to finish, but realistically,
oh boy,
where do you think it'll be this season?
I'm scared to put this out into the ecosystem. Second.
That's better than me. I've got us third.
Okay. We're pretty aligned.
Very aligned. Why do you think it's second, not third?
So I've got Fremantle third. I mean, you look at the ladder over the last few years.
Who's first?
So
I want your top 8.
Yeah, I've got Brisbane first.
Yeah.
I think, but I mean, it's a bit of an, I hate to say this, but it's a bit of an arbitrary exercise because it's so close. Like you look at the 8 this year and how close it all was. But at the moment, my top 8 is Brisbane, Carlton, Fremantle, the Giants.
Yep.
Sydney, Port, Geelong, Hawthorn.
Yeah. We're very similar. We're very similar. I haven't done mine in order, I'll be honest.
Okay.
I had 2 teams above us, which was I had Brisbane and I had GWS second. I think just off the top of my head, I think you'd then have Freo, Geelong, Sydney, Hawthorn, and take a pick for the last one. I think everyone else I'm more sold on than the next.
Yeah. I see Port and Sydney as being in the slide category. I'm not as bullish on Hawthorn as others. I'm nowhere near as bullish on Collingwood as others.
No.
And St Kilda's probably my big slider of the year to take a quote out of your book. Take a leaf out of your book, sorry.
That is music to my ears. Lock it now. Premiership. Have you gone as simple as the Baggers are taking it out?
As I started this season by saying, I need someone to make a really clear, coherent argument why it's not us. And until that, I'm backing us in.
Fair enough. I don't know why I can't write us down. I don't know what that is. I don't know if I need to see us make top 4 before I can believe it.
Well, I'm going to have to
But I've
rebut
got-
whoever you say very hard.
I've got GWS currently as my Premiership winner. But what makes me then bullish on Carlton in this is that I can see us being better than GWS this year.
Me too. I hate to say it, they're probably the one that's the hardest for me to rebut. So
I think it's hard for a team to go back to back in Brisbane. I don't know if it's us, and I don't know if I can say it's us. Everyone else, I have so many more question marks over. GWS, they just fell away badly last year, but I like every line of them. I think they're the strongest key defenders, got key forwards and some smart forwards. Their midfield strong, whereas I look at other teams and I find holes everywhere.
Me too.
I think there's something, but I hope it's us. Now, Wooden Spoon, is it your slider in St Kilda that takes this out? Or who is it?
I'm afraid I can't do that. I think it will be Richmond.
Yeah,
I've got Richmond and West Coast, and then Daylight. To be honest,
yeah, no, I'm very in alignment. Let's go Brownlow Medalist for me because you've said that it's going to be Dacos. I think it's going to be Dacos in a very similar to like the Judd Swan kind of vibes when it was like not that it's the same. I think last time it was like Judd should have won, but Swan won, and then everyone was like, what? And then it flipped the next year. I just think this time round, there was so much noise about Dacos has to win it. It needs to be Dacos, whether he should have or not, that he's just going to get it. And then they can all shut up and they can have their fun in the corner, knowing that good luck. You're only going to win individual awards now because everyone's 50 years old and you're dog shit. Enjoy it. Coleman medalist, Lockie. The last prediction of the episode.
I think you picked this guy last year. Do you remember who you picked last year?
I do remember who I picked last year. Are you going Ben King?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I forgot. No, I thought you... No.
I was scolded at that last year, so I got really excited. How dare you tempt me? Who have you called?
Yeah. No. I really don't love this pick. I don't know if I want to say it. Nick Larkey.
Oh, why would I say Nick Larkey? Disgusting.
Maybe I've dreamt that.
I think I mentioned him as someone I think will kick a lot of goals, but I still don't think North will be good. So it wasn't him.
No, and I don't think they will either. I think they'll be a bit better. And that forward line is just absolutely atrocious. He came 8th last year. He kicked 46, but he kicked 71 in 2023.
That is a lot of goals for a bad football team.
Right. So I feel like if they get a bit better, still a bad forward line, and he gets a bit closer to that, then I think he'll take it out.
Not the worst one. Yeah, I went big last year on Ben King. I think he finished like 4th or 5th in the end, which I was scolded at. I was tempted to go back again because the reason I said Ben King was that I thought Gold Coast might play finals. They could be better this year than what they were last year, which would mean he improves. But I think this is actually one of the hardest to predict ever. Jesse Hogan's boring to say him, so I'm not going to do it. Charlie with the injury cloud. Does Harry kick more? I don't know. Jeremy Cameron is there. Finished 2nd last year. Everyone thinks Geelong will be even better this year. But I think that's boring. So I'm going to go big Josh Tracy because everyone's on the Freo bandwagon. He kicked 45 goals last year from 20 games.
Yeah.
That is 30 more goals than he kicked in the previous year, playing 3 more games last year. Yeah. That is a ridiculous turnaround in the amount of goals that man kicked. If they're better, I think they'll play finals. That means this man is kicking more goals. Who better than Tracy?
Yeah, I'm not going to hate on it too much. He definitely came into my head. I just felt like with Amos there and still improving, we think that Jackson's probably going to have more of a defined forward role this year. Obviously, add Bolton in there, should be a better goal kicker than their smalls. That's my hesitance, but I could definitely see it. He's a scary player.
Yeah, I think I just wanted to have fun with it again rather than going someone really, really obvious because I have no idea who's going to win the Coleman. But that is going to wrap up this episode. Let us know what you thought of our hot takes. Were they spicy enough? And let us know your predictions for everything. Who are the players to watch? Who's under the pump and why? And then go through every single one of those. Who's winning the flag? What is our ladder position? Who's winning the Coleman? We want to know all of your answers.
Absolutely.
Leave them in the comments below here on YouTube, or if you're listening in podcast audio form, head over to the socials at Navy Blue Corner. These episodes are going to keep coming. We've got a lot more in store for the preseason. We've got our best 23 and depth chart episode. We'll also be recapping and reviewing every single one of our preseason games, which will be quite fun. We've talked about who are those players to watch. We'll be able to report back on them and see how they have performed. So make sure you subscribe here on YouTube to never miss an episode and follow wherever you're here in audio form. But that is our season predictions for 2025. Up the bloody baggers. See you guys next time.